I want to talk to you guys about how you can enjoy spatial audio so you can join the music revolution. Hey folks, I'm Gene Delasalo with Audioholics. I want to talk to you guys about spatial audio music. I always put stuff on our community tab of things I'm listening to on the weekends in surround sound, and I'm just blown away by the sound quality. As you guys know, I'm a music guy first. I love home theater, but my primary focus on audio is always about music. Spatial audio is basically Dolby Atmos for music, and it's becoming quite popular now. There's a lot of options that weren't here over a year ago. It's really come full force. I want to make sure you guys are enjoying this. So I'm giving you a quick video overview on what you need, the tools you need to get spatial audio today. And I want to talk to you guys about the setup, the hardware, and then where you're going to be streaming from. Now, full disclaimer, I'm not getting any affiliate money from any of the services I'm promoting here. This is just true love of music that I want to share with you. So I created this little PowerPoint presentation I'm going to go over with you. So basically, how can you stream Dolby Atmos or spatial audio? That's what we're going to be talking about here. There's 3 different ways to do it. You have 3 options here, and I want to just go step by step on what you could do. So the first thing you need is an AV receiver. That's the very first thing. You cannot do any kind of Atmos without an AVR, okay? So I recommend getting at least a 9-channel AV receiver with 9 channels of built-in amplification. This allows you to do 4 height channels. It's really critical, as we learned from a Hollywood producer, that John Traunwieser, that produced, he mixed Star Wars, he's mixed Hunger Games, bunches different kinds of movies in Atmos. He basically let us know that if you're just doing a 7.1.2 system or a 5.1.2 system, those are considered bed layers. So you're getting only static objects in there. You're not going to have any type of object panning in the height channels. So I really recommend you guys do 4 in-ceiling Atmos channels. And in order to do that, you need an AVR that has 9 channels of built-in amplification. As you can see here, I have the Yamaha RXA 6A, which I bench tested and I did a full report on. This one has actually 11 channels of processing. So that's really great if you want to do future expandability and you want to have, you know, back channels added to the 4 height channels. So you have 2 sides, 2 backs, 4 heights, LCRs, and a couple of subs. So that's the first thing you need, is a good AVR that does at least 9 channels of processing and amplification. And here's just a back panel view of a Denon AVR 3800H that's brand new. It's got, again, a 9-channel built-in amplification, 11 channels of processing. This guy's got 4 subwoofer outputs, which I love, 4 independent subwoofer outputs, so you can really take advantage of modal-based distribution in your system, get the time alignment, the delay set, the EQ set, and you can have every seat in your theater or in your listening space a good seat for bass. And you really, bass is 35 to 40% of the enjoyment. You want to make sure you have good bass impact, especially for spatial audio, because I've found a lot of spatial audio mixes really crank up that LFE. And if you don't have good bass in your system, you're going to miss out on that. Then the last thing about this back panel that's really critical, if you're choosing an AVR and you're going to spend, if you could spend a couple $100 more on an AVR, get one that has external preamp outputs on it. So if you ever want to plug a power amplifier in to get more power to your system, you have that ability. If you're spending under $1,000 on an AVR, they probably don't have preamp outputs, at least on all the channels, maybe on the front channels. But definitely look at that. See if you got preamp outputs on your AVR. If it doesn't, then go to the next model up if you could afford it. I really recommend it. You'll get more shelf life out of the product. The next thing is you need a speaker, an Atmos speaker layout that supports the format. And I do recommend you start with the Dolby Atmos guidelines. They've got very thorough guidelines on speaker placements. This is the kind of stuff that really makes or breaks a system. If you don't have the right speakers and you don't have good locations of those speakers, you're not going to really enjoy or get the full impact of the mix. And we had John Tronweiser on again, and he basically said that he endorses doing in-ceiling speakers for the Atmos channels or on-ceiling speakers in the formation that you see in this very generic diagram here. Now, you don't have to follow this as a biblical source. If you're off a few degrees here or there, it doesn't really matter, especially with the high channels, because it's more of a diffuse sound field. You just want to have them, you know, in a reasonable near field area of where the seats are. You don't want to throw them in weird corners of the room. I know there's people that like Oro up mixing, which is great if you enjoy that, but you're not going to get true spatial audio representation if you're putting your high channels in the corners of the room, because that's not how the content's being mixed. I've had David Frangione on as well. He talks about this as well. We really follow a 7.1.4. That's kind of the golden standard for Atmos. Same thing with home theater, same thing with music, same thing with spatial audio music. So this is really something you guys should take a look at. And of course, don't just do one sub. Try to do 2 subs, maybe 4 subs if you can. Again, you want to have that good bass distribution. Follow the guidelines as a starting point and then adopt it to your room to make sure it works well. The next thing is you need the hardware. You need something that's going to stream the spatial audio music to your Atmos AVR. And you've got options. You've got the Apple TV, which is my personal preference. I have 2 Apple TVs in my systems. I absolutely love it. I have Roku. I love the Roku, but Roku does not support spatial audio. For the life of me, I don't understand why they have not gone to that step yet. The other option is you have NVIDIA, which I have not really played with, and FireTV. I've had mixed results with FireTV, especially with automation systems like Control 4. I really like Apple TV. I recommend at least the 2nd generation model and at least 64 gigabits or more storage. I've seen them on Amazon, and I'll put a link below. I've seen them on Amazon for as little as $110. So it's very affordable streamer. Of course, if you want to do Gen 3, you're welcome to do Gen 3, but Gen 2 will pass spatial audio just fine. I've got a Gen 2 and a Gen 3 in my multiple systems. They both work equally well for doing spatial audio Atmos. And then the other thing is make sure you're doing a hardwire connection. Now, there are exceptions. I've got a pretty extensive wireless network throughout the house. I'm using all Luxel, and I've got basically it's 500 megabits up and down. So it's really fast. In that case, I could say you can use wireless, but generally speaking, I still use wired. I still plug all of my audio equipment into an Ethernet hub, and I do wire connections. That's how I am. That's how I roll. If you can do that, if you have your router that's close by and you can plug an Ethernet hub in, get really stable connections. That way you don't have any streaming issues. You don't have any bandwidth issues, and your music doesn't crap out when you got your buds over and you're trying to show off, you know, the latest Atmos recording, and then all of a sudden it's buffering. Don't want it to buffer. So definitely get a good internet connection. Apple TV is my choice for spatial audio. Give me some comments down below if you guys are doing any spatial audio streaming. Which streaming device are you using? I'm curious to see what your experiences are. And then you need to subscribe to a streaming service that supports spatial audio or Dolby Atmos. And right now there's only 3. So I'm sorry, Qobuz fans. It doesn't seem like they're supporting Atmos spatial audio yet. But right now you've got 3 options. You've got Tidal, you've got Apple Music, and you've got Amazon HD. I don't have a lot of experience with Amazon HD. I know people rave about it, and I've heard it's really good. I'm not sure about their music selections, but I can tell you I've played a lot with Tidal and Apple Music. They're both good platforms for streaming your music. I personally prefer Apple Music. I think the selection is bigger on Apple Music, and also I think the level matching is a little bit better. I've noticed a huge difference in levels between going spatial audio on Tidal than back to 2-channel. I mean, it just blows you out of the seat. Whereas Apple Music seems like it's a little bit tighter. Maybe there's a couple of dB difference. And I just like the interface better on Apple Music. It seems like I'm always finding new spatial audio on Apple Music, whereas in Tidal, you really got to dig in and find it. So my recommendation is getting an Apple Music subscription and then making sure that you have a good connection and you got an Apple TV and you're able to stream spatial audio to your Atmos receiver, to your Atmos speaker system, and then you enjoy. So the next thing is make sure if you're doing an Apple TV to properly configure it. I know it's hard to see the images here. Maybe I'll zoom in a little bit. But basically, if you go into the Apple TV settings, make sure you set up all your video settings so you get proper 4K. And then make sure you select Dolby Atmos in the audio options. Otherwise, you're not going to get that. And that's really unfortunate if you went through all these steps and you forgot the last thing, the configuration. And then once you get into your Apple TV and you get into Apple Music, you'll notice that there's categories. There's actually a spatial audio menu, and then it gives you different categories of what's represented there. I mean, they got holiday music, hits, hip hop, rap, you name it. There's so much of a selection there. It's quite unbelievable to see that. And in fact, in many cases, I find spatial audio mixes without even going through those menus. I just go to a latest artist. Let's say you go to The Weeknd or something. All of his new recordings are in spatial audio, and they are freaking fabulous. They're true object-based spatial audio recordings, and they just really slay, as my daughter would say. Really incredible sound quality, something you really have to hear to believe. And then I always check, once you have it all set up and you're streaming something in spatial audio, go into your AVR and make sure that it's actually streaming in Atmos and it's not down mixing, it's not doing 2-channel or 5.1 or any weird thing like that. So always check. I always make sure that I'm streaming, although you'll notice, I mean, you really will notice if it's not native Atmos, especially if it's a really good recording that uses objects and pan stuff all around the room, especially above you. And, you know, my opinion, spatial audio is a true game changer. I really can't overemphasize how much of a game changer it is if you're a music fan. You get to rediscover the classics. I went last weekend and I just listened to Abbey Road from the Beatles from start to finish. It was like a new recording to me. My mind was literally blown. Like, how could something that was recorded in the late 60s sound this good? And it sounds so unique. It doesn't sound gimmicky. It's not like they're throwing voices at you on one speaker, playing a drum in another speaker. I mean, it's just giving you an enveloping sound field. And the bass, I mean, I didn't think Beatles recordings had this much bass, and you really get to hear, you know, the magic of Ringo on these records, on these songs. And I was blown away. I was really emotional about it. I grew up listening to this kind of music, and then to just hear it in this kind of clarity, in this level of fidelity, as if it was just recorded yesterday. It's just really awesome. And then you get to embrace the new artists that are doing spatial audio. In fact, Porcupine Tree, one of my favorite bands, when I interviewed Steven Wilson during the Hand Cannot Erase tour, he didn't even know what Dolby Atmos was. And I kind of told him about it. And he was skeptical that format would even catch on. And here we are. Steven Wilson is mixing in Atmos. He's mixing his solo stuff in Atmos. He's mixing for other artists. And now the new Porcupine Tree album is just unbelievable. If you're a Porcupine Tree fan, I highly encourage you to check it out on Apple Music or Tidal or Amazon HD in Atmos. My favorite track on that whole record is Dignity. It's just really a beautiful recording. And that's it, guys. So I hope you found this video useful. Give me some comments down below. Are you listening and embracing spatial audio? Has it changed the way you listen to music? Is it making it more of an engaging experience for you? I can tell you that I've compared the 2-channel versus the multi-channel and Atmos of many of these records. And the Porcupine Tree example is a fabulous one, because Steven Wilson, when I watched interviews on him, he basically, all of his recordings are really set for what the 2-channel mix is, right? He wants to make sure that 2-channel mix is preserved. So when he expands out and does multi-channel and does Atmos, it doesn't take away from that mix. And that's kind of how I approach setting up home theaters. I really like to have the front soundstage perfect and then build upon that. And that's what a good spatial audio recording will do. It's not going to be gimmicky. It's not going to, you know, pan things like in a way that's just not, you know, tasteful. So guys, I hope you found this video useful. Don't forget about our Patreon channel at patreon.com/audioholics. We appreciate your support. You get direct access to me if you want to suggest video topics or you want to ask questions. And until next time, my friends, keep listening.